Alright, so I said I would show you guys how to kind of fly piece of this piece of very fibrous shit called the An-2 Aeroshot. Um, Quite easily the worst vehicle in the game. Uh, as it's got crappy speed, it's got poor handling, and it has nearly zero climb rate. Um, but it's pretty fun to fly around regardless in DayZ. Uh, it's also a great way to scout things out or drop people, um, especially if you're creative and use the engine off key to basically turn it into a giant glider. Um, but most people, they see the plane and they think, "Ooh, I'm just going to take off and, it's going to be great. I'm going to fly amongst the clouds and act like the Red Baron." Um, I'm sorry. I'm going to shatter your dreams right now. You do better to get into a helicopter. Um, so let's get right down to it. Get this thing out onto a runway or out into a field where there's a lot of room to take off. Okay? Because that's going to be a slow, long process, and if you don't have the space to do it, you're going to most likely it's actually a very very tough plane. You're most likely just going to get it stuck and never be able to get it out again. So, like I said, get it somewhere flat or not even flat. Just get it somewhere open, away from trees, away from buildings. Of course, hit your Q, start the thing up. Hold Q to get it start rolling. Just keep your finger on Q, and you'll start moving forward. I think this thing starts to fly at like maybe 75. Oh, 60, 65. Now, here's the thing about the Aeroshot is that it has no climb rate, and well, it obviously has some climb rate, but it has terrible climb rate. So you can't take this thing up and expect that once you get off the ground, you can just pull up and gain a bunch of altitude. It's easier to stall this thing than it is to actually fly it. Let it take off on its own and nudge the nose up just ever so slightly, maybe 2-3 degrees, and keep holding Q. Get as much power as you can, and once you're up into 150 or so, you can kind of keep nosing up, and just watch your speed, because it will drop very fast. This thing, once it's gotten up to speed, it's a pretty good little flyer. You're gonna notice when you start flying it that it falls a lot. Any sharp turns, anything like that, is going to cause you to lose altitude, or it'll stall you. So just when you're flying this thing, be delicate. Treat it like like a sick kitten. Just as gently as possible. Turn. Turn if you need to gain altitude. Again, just 4 or 5 degrees up at a time. And you should never be pointing. I would say you should never be pointing more than 10 degrees above the horizon, because that's when your speed starts to bleed, and you end up stalling. And once this thing goes into a fall, there's really no coming back from it. But other than that, it flies pretty much like any other plane in the game, or like any plane you'd expect to fly. What I like to do most of the time is get it to, you know, up in the 200s and engine off, because as you can see, it just becomes a little silent glider, and it's pretty good at staying up in the air like this. Of course, this is just controlled falling, so you need to be mindful that if you want to increase your altitude, you're going to have to dip and then come back up, and you're not going to gain that much, and you're going to lose a lot of speed. So I actually wouldn't suggest doing that at all. But yeah, like as you can see, pretty decent glider. Keep it flat and keep it sort of nose down. Watch your speed. I think once you hit about 100, you should probably click that engine back on, because it has a tendency to suddenly fall out of the air like a rock. Other than that, there's not much to explain. It's a decent vehicle for what it does, and I mean, it's fun to troll in. It's nice to shadow cars silently and you know, scream "Tor, Tor, Tor," and then crash into a building right next where the car was, you know, which is usually what ends up happening. But yeah, that's it. That's the An-2. Just the only thing you need to be mindful is that you can't treat this thing like a sports car. It's like I said, you have to treat it like a sick kitten, because it's gonna stall otherwise. If you throw in extreme inputs, the only thing you're gonna get from it is death. So yeah, that's the An-2.